very warm welcome to Daily Dispatch, a show that gives you all the latest news and updates from the digital ecosystem. I'm Priya Shape. Thank you so much for logging in, and thank God it's Monday because we're here to get you all the movers and shakers from the digital ecosystem. First up, we have Reliance Industries, which has acquired an additional equity stake in NASA-incubated futuristic mobility startup Skytran for a whopping $27 million. Now, this transaction has taken place through its Reliance Strategic Business Ventures subsidiary, and this Reliance arm now controls about 54.46% of Skytran. Do remember that Reliance had first invested an undisclosed amount of investment into Skytran in exchange for a 12.7% stake. Well, moving on to the second headline of the day, Vijay Shekhar Sharma's Paytm has clocked more than 1.2 billion transactions in February across its platforms. It said that February run rate has been consistent with January's run rate, and it has also said that its offline payment merchants are growing at 15% month on month. Well, Inflection Point Ventures plans to double its investment in startups to $20 million this year as it looks to play a larger role in mentoring and growing India's startup ecosystem. IPV, which comprises about 4,000 investors, is also looking at expanding its network to 5,000 members by the end of this year. Well, moving on to the final headline of the day, in what could be a boost to small-scale industries in India, Swedish furniture major IKEA, which has a range of over 1,000 products as part of its children's range, is looking to scale up sourcing of toys from India for its operations. Now, the company, which currently sources only cotton-based toys from India, is also exploring to expand in some other categories such as wooden toys going forward.
Well, moving on to our second segment, I have somebody who has been, working in the premium workwear space, and someone who has really brought the brand to the masses. I have with me Ayushi Gudwani, who is the founder and CEO of Fable Street. Many thanks for joining us today on the Daily Dispatch. I want to begin by asking you how the last couple of months have been, considering that we're just emerging from a pandemic. Work from home has become a reality now. So, with regards to people really shopping online, and specifically with the categories that you cater to, which is workwear, how do you see that panning out?
So it's a question I usually answer very commonly, but workwear has actually gone through a significant amount of transition, and I will be brutally honest to say that last 1 year hasn't been easy, and it hasn't been easy for any startup to address this. And we, as a startup in a space where everyone stopped going to office, so therefore the need for workwear pretty much vanished. We had to completely look at reinventing ourselves and thinking about what is the next wave of workwear. So last 1 year has been difficult in terms of execution, learnings, and everything, but it has also been very fulfilling because we've fully reinvented and redefined what the new workwear looks like. We are doing this concept of work from home, which is very relevant. So it needs different products. So we are working on that, and we did a fantastic job around this. And then the future of the workwear, tees becomes regular, and a lot of other things come into play. So overall, it's been a difficult journey. We have fully overcome it by being fully extremely agile and being on the point and making the product relevant with the product revamp. And we are pretty much out of COVID scenario. We are about 2x of what we were pre-COVID. So future of workwear, very optimistic, very excited. But what was workwear earlier is not going to be the workwear of future. And that's what we are working on now.
So then, in terms of specific categories, which are the categories that are doing well? Because I understand that maybe formal trousers is something that seems to be a thing of the past. I don't think anyone of us wear formal trousers anymore.
Yes. So you're absolutely right. I think what was workwear earlier and also as a category and product don't work. So formal trousers are not a part of the category anymore. It is actually, we've just launched this concept of live-in pants, which is basically something you can move from sleep to yoga to exercise to work and finish your day in. So that's the new wave of how the bottom wear will evolve. Shirts are also not as important. You need to now think about less ironing, but also being Zoom call ready the way you are wearing around this. So a lot of those things have completely changed. So from a category perspective, Tees are the new workwear, as I said earlier. Jackets will still stay in trend, and will work because they are strong on the upper. So, and focus on upper body will remain as a big trend. Overall, it's a bigger transition, even beyond workwear. You're not going to wear stilettos and heels to office. You will probably wear it once in a while, but not a lot. So yes.
When you talk about the kind of expansion and the roadmap in 2021, what are going to be the key focus areas? Any specific categories that you'd look at further expanding into?
Yes, so we are going to, so overall as a brand, from an apparel perspective, we are fully reinventing what was the workwear earlier versus now. Will move it, will change. And as a category within the formal wear or a workwear as a category, as I said, new wave of pants, tees is a new category. We've entered into it. Comfortable dresses are going to be extremely strong category. Again, we are entering into that. In addition to it, other categories like jewelries and accessory is going to become increasingly important, again from a Zoom call readiness perspective. And also now going back to office, people have become really conscious about dressing up well, but also effortless dressing. So every aspect of category which enables effortless dressing and comfortable dressing will actually become more important, and that's what we will enter into.
Going forward, I wanted to understand in terms of funding, you've raised your last round of funding in 2019. Is there a requirement on the funding perspective? And in terms of overall investment, what would you be looking at deploying funds into?
So we've raised about 3.5 million till date in terms of funding, and we've done our Series A late 2019. So we've just did it just before COVID hit. We have been extremely optimal on the fund utilization, and our funds were primarily from a growth and a scale up perspective. So at this point in time, we are not clearly jumping into a new fundraise. We are very well settled and satisfied, and we can easily grow 3 to 4x from where we are with the existing fundraise. Having said that, I do intend to raise another round in another 6 to 8 months. We are in a super growth and a super scale mode, so we will need to raise. The way we look at funding, by definition, is that our core business funds itself between the cost of the products, the marketing, and operations. And any new funds are only from a scale up perspective, which is either the team or the tech or inventory. And that's how we typically think about funding.
So when you talk about funding, and I want to talk to you a little bit about the sourcing aspect. Is it a third-party sourcing that you look at? Are you planning to get into manufacturing itself?
So we have been manufacturing ourselves. That is we are a DNVB, the typical term you see, that we are digitally native but vertically integrated brand. So everything from a design to sourcing to manufacturing to even marketing, we do it end to end. It helps us completely optimize the cost. B, it helps us plan from a scale perspective and makes us fully attuned to understanding the back end of the supply chain. And then third is that in the initial few years, it also enables you to control quality. So keeping all those three in mind, we've basically been manufacturing since the inception. At this point in time, from a sourcing perspective, we are 60% contract manufactured and 40% still in-house. And we are going to increasingly go more contract manufactured.
Okay, so more contract manufacturing is going to happen going
Yes.
forward. Talk to us about the average order value, because I understand that the pricing of the products on your website is far higher and far more premium than perhaps a Myntra or an AJIO or any other fashion portal out there. So in terms of pricing, number one, I want to understand what is your average order value that you look at? And secondly, are Indians, which is a really price sensitive market, willing to pay that kind of price?
So the way I look at pricing, first of all, see, we may be a little bit higher from what happens on the online portals, but we are actually about 15 to 20% lower than offline portals. And I mean offline, whether be it a Zara or a Marks and Spencer, which are the core competitors that we deal with. So we are basically looking at a very high quality and premium product with a value for money pricing. That's how we look at our pricing. Unfortunately, very strong brands are not significantly online. So therefore, it appears that we are actually expensive, but we are not. And therefore, to answer your question in terms of value and people's acceptance, we have, by the way, been a non-discounted product. At the same time, we have been growing 3x year on year and have held on to our average order values of 4,500 plus. online, and in our offline store which we went live with, we have about a 6,000 plus average order value. So we are actually competing in the right place. People who value the product and the quality actually find it cheaper than the online platforms and the rest of the brands that we compete with. So it's just more the dynamics of online, which is typically associated with discounting, mass product, and not so quality product, vis-a-vis the offline, which is actually a quality product that you can touch, feel, and buy. So we are trying to bring that entire quality and very strong international quality experience online. So that's how we think about it.
Do you plan to also get into offline, meaning in the sense having more physical stores in the country?
Yes, absolutely. We opened our first offline store pre-COVID just in February last year. We've seen excessively strong support for these stores, so we intend to go offline for sure around this. Having said that, we are very conscious in terms of our approach. We will become strong omni-channel brand. So for us, offline is a way for consumers to experience the product. So it's more like a concept store. You can buy stuff, but you can come in given your measurements and also explore the styling opportunity with Fable Street. We will not go heavily in terms of distribution approach in offline.
So when you talk about profitability, a lot of online businesses find it difficult to get profitable. And at Fable Street, I wanted to understand where the profitability dynamics lie, and what is the plan ahead as far as getting profitable on a net level.
So number one is that from the day of inception of business, and also where I come from, as I mentioned, you mentioned, right, McKinsey, everything, we're very conscious about profitability as a business. So we've been strongly GM positive from day one, and today also consistently over last 4.5 years of running the business, we've been CM2 profitable. So positive, and therefore we are clearly on a strong trajectory to be profitable, and we can be profitable even today if we want to. We are only reinvesting and investing from a future growth perspective. So very strongly profitable approach for us, and that's how we've built the business from day one.
All right. And just a final question as far as revenue and growth targets are concerned, if you could run us through what kind of revenue targets you're running with for the next financial year. And in terms of absolute growth, what is your target?
So we are looking at growing about 3 to 4x year on year for at least next 2 years. And we intend to be at least about 100 plus crores by end of this year, early next year is the intention for us. But we do want to really grow very strong. We're also launching a new sub-brand, and we're experimenting a lot within the workwear space as well.
All right. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of sub-brand you're launching and the new categories of launch for Fable Street in the coming year. Many thanks for joining us today, Ayushi. It's been really a pleasure speaking with you on the Daily Dispatch. Thank you for your time.
Well, time now to say goodbye. Many thanks for joining us on this edition of Daily Dispatch. I'll see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. Stay safe and see you tomorrow.